5 signs you carry the shadow vibration of a dark chosen one. You've probably heard of the chosen ones, the light bringers, the healers, the warriors of truth. But what if I told you there's another side? A mirror image. A shadow vibration that runs just as deep, just as powerful, and just as sacred. It's not evil. It's ancient. It's misunderstood. And for some of you watching this right now, it's your truth. Because if you've always felt like you could never fully fit into the light, yet the darkness never fully consumed you either, you might be carrying the frequency of what I call the dark chosen one. It's not a title, it's a path. A path that is heavier, more complex, and often hidden beneath masks of silence and spiritual confusion. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you feel it, you start to awaken a power within you that's been locked behind lifetimes of suppression. So let me ask you a question. Have you always felt like you're walking a tightrope between creation and destruction? Like your energy, your presence, can either heal someone's soul or completely unravel them? If so, then this is your call to remember. Because the dark chosen ones are not here to play small. We are here to confront what no one else will, to transmute what others fear, to hold space inside the chaos, not run from it. And that requires a different kind of strength, a strength forged in shadows.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first sign that you carry this rare frequency is that your energy disrupts everything around you. Not because you're negative, not because you're toxic, but because your very presence is catalytic. People either love you uncontrollably or feel uneasy around you for reasons they can't explain. You walk into a room and something shifts. Conversations change. Secrets surface. Emotions people didn't even know they were carrying begin to rise. You're not trying to expose anything, it just happens. That's because your field is a mirror. It reflects hidden truths. It activates the unconscious. And that's hard for most people to face. You've probably been blamed for things that weren't your fault, targeted for being too intense, or isolated because your frequency made others uncomfortable. But what if that intensity is exactly what you came here to embody? The second sign is that you've experienced spiritual trauma, not just pain, but spiritual pain. You've walked through betrayals that cut deeper than any physical wound. You've trusted people who claim to be light workers, mentors, or even soulmates, only to be torn apart. And yet, you survived. More than that, you absorbed the lesson. You didn't become bitter. You became sharper, wiser, but also more silent. Because now, you don't just hear people's words, you feel their intentions. You read energy like ancient scripture. You know when someone is lying, even if they don't. And that knowing isolates you, but it also protects you. Because dark chosen ones don't just encounter darkness, they embody it, transmute it, and make it sacred. Third, you have a powerful relationship with anger and destruction. This is the part no one wants to talk about, but you must. Because if you carry this frequency, you felt the fire inside you, the rage, the urge to burn everything down, not out of hatred, but out of a deep, divine frustration with illusion. You've probably been told to calm down, to suppress your anger, to be high vibrational. But here's the truth. Your shadow is not your enemy. Your anger is not a mistake. It's a compass. It shows you where the lies are, where the injustice is, where the energy is rotting. You are not here to destroy people, you are here to destroy systems, old paradigms, false light, corrupt structures. And you do that by embracing your fire, not letting it consume you, but letting it purify you. Fourth, your power scares you. Deep down, you've always known there's something inside you that could change everything. You've glimpsed it in moments of emotional intensity, in dreams, in silence. But every time you get close, you pull back. Why? Because you're afraid of what might happen if you fully let it out. Because part of you remembers lifetimes where your power was punished, misunderstood, or used against you. So you keep it quiet, you dim it, you pretend to be normal. But you're not, and you never will be. You didn't come here to play by the rules, you came here to rewrite them. And the only way to do that is to stop running from your own strength. Finally, you've always felt like you walk between worlds. You see the light, but you're not blinded by it. You know the dark, but you're not consumed by it. You live in the in-between, the liminal, the place where spirit and flesh meet, where dreams and nightmares blur. You see both sides, and that's your gift. Because only someone who has walked through both heaven and hell can help others truly heal. You're not here to preach from the mountaintop. You're here to crawl into the trenches with those who are suffering and lead them out not with judgment, but with presence. So I'll leave you with this question. What if your darkness is not a wound, but a key? What if everything you've been through, everything you felt, was preparing you to become something the world rarely understands? A being who can hold both the shadow and the light without needing to be either. If this resonates, then you're ready for what comes next, because understanding these signs is just the beginning. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the hidden spiritual contracts of dark chosen ones, and what it really means to step into your role not as a savior, but as a mirror, a weapon, and a healer all in one. The hidden contract, why you were marked by darkness before you were ever born. Before you ever took your first breath in this world, before your soul merged with your body, before the illusion of time made you forget, you made a vow. Not the kind of vow that's spoken in temples or written in sacred texts. It was a soul agreement, a cosmic contract. And it wasn't made in the light. It was made in the dark, in the silence, in the space where only the bravest souls dare to go. Because contrary to what most believe, the most powerful contracts aren't forged in heaven. They're forged in shadow, in fire, in the stillness between death and rebirth. If you carry the vibration of a dark chosen one, then you didn't just choose this life for growth. You were assigned to it. You were marked. That mark is not something visible to the eye, yet it echoes through your entire energetic field. It's why you've never felt innocent, even as a child. It's why people projected things onto you that had nothing to do with you. Why you attracted both incredible light and unexplainable darkness, even when you were trying to hide. You see, your presence activates people's unresolved wounds. It brings things to the surface that they've buried for years, even lifetimes. That's not a coincidence. That's your contract being activated. You were not sent here to make people comfortable. You were sent here to awaken them. And awakening is violent. It's disruptive. It's not always pretty. And neither are you when you're in your full, raw, unapologetic truth. But here's the deeper layer. You didn't just choose to carry this vibration. You earned it. In other lifetimes, perhaps on other planets, in other dimensions, you walked through the darkest lessons a soul can endure. You've been the villain. You've been the tyrant. You've abused power. You've misused magic. You've taken life, broken trust, manipulated energy for selfish gain. And instead of being condemned, you were given a rare opportunity to come back, not as punishment, but as integration. You came back to reclaim the parts of yourself you once feared, to master the power that once consumed you, to walk into this life not as a victim of darkness, but as its alchemist. That's why your path has never been easy. That's why you've known betrayal, abandonment, and spiritual isolation unlike most. Your contract required that. Because only through the crucible of pain could your body become strong enough to hold the vibration you're meant to carry. Only through the dismantling of your ego could your soul rise to its rightful seat. And make no mistake, that seat is not on a throne. It's in the center of the battlefield. You didn't come here to be worshipped. You came here to serve with eyes open, heart steady, and spirit unshakable. You also agreed to remember slowly, because if you had remembered too soon, if you had seen the full scope of your power, before you knew how to hold it, you would have destroyed everything, maybe even yourself. That's the danger of shadow power. It's seductive, it's fast, it gives you results. But without grounding, it becomes poison. That's why your path has been filled with delays, detours, heartbreaks, and humbling. Not because you're cursed, but because you're protected. The universe slowed you down because your energy is a weapon. And a weapon, in the wrong hands, even your own, can do irreversible damage. So now the question becomes, what are you going to do with this contract? Will you reject it because it didn't come wrapped in light and love? Will you deny it because it asks more of you than you're comfortable giving? Or will you rise into it not with ego but with reverence? Because once you say yes truly, fully yes, everything changes. You stop trying to be like everyone else. You stop chasing validation. You stop fearing your own darkness. And you begin to see it for what it truly is, a sacred tool, a divine current, the part of God that most people are too afraid to touch. This is the point where you realize you're not here to escape your past, you're here to redeem it, to take every lifetime, every mistake, every shadow, and turn it into wisdom, into clarity, into purpose. And that's not just spiritual poetry, it's practical. Because when you embrace the totality of who you are, you gain access to a level of discernment, strength, and spiritual authority that no lightened path can ever offer. You become fearless in the face of manipulation, because you've already manipulated. You become immune to spiritual bypassing, because you've seen what happens when people try to skip the shadow work. You become dangerous not to the innocent, but to the systems, to the illusions, to the energies that have kept this planet in chains. So I ask you now, from the deepest place of truth, what if your darkness isn't your enemy? What if it's your inheritance? What if the very pain you've tried to escape is the key to unlocking your highest destiny? If that question stirs something in you, if it makes your skin buzz or your chest tighten, then you're remembering. And remember this, the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real ones, more warriors of truth, more spiritual architects who can build new realities from the ashes of the old. And that's what you are. Not a mistake, not a monster, but a soul who walked through fire, signed a sacred contract in the void, and came back not to be saved, but to save others by saving yourself. Weapon or wound, how to use your darkness without letting it use you. There's a fine line, razor thin, between wielding your darkness as a sacred weapon and allowing it to fester into a self-destructive wound. Most people never learn how to walk that line. They either suppress their shadows until they explode outward in chaos, or they fall in love with their pain so deeply that it becomes their identity. But if you carry the vibration of a dark chosen one, you don't have the luxury of avoidance. You can't afford to romanticize your wounds or ignore them. You were born with a spiritual blade in your hand, and the world will either feel healed or cut by your presence depending on how you use it. Darkness, when unacknowledged, turns inward. It becomes depression, chronic rage, anxiety that roots itself in your bones. It sabotages relationships. It poisons purpose. But darkness, when owned, becomes power. It becomes clarity. It becomes a force so exact, so clean in its intention, that it can slice through illusion like a sword through silk. So you have to ask yourself daily, is my shadow mastering me, or am I mastering it? That's not a metaphor. That's a spiritual discipline. Because the dark chosen ones don't get to coast through life on affirmations and incense. We are called to a different standard, one that requires brutal honesty, deep stillness, and the courage to sit with our ugliest truths without flinching. Your anger, your grief, your shame, they are not flaws. They are sacred data. They are signals from the parts of you that still remember who you are and what you came here to do. But here's the catch. If you don't learn how to translate that data, it will speak in the only language it knows: destruction. The key is alchemy. Can you feel your rage without letting it control your actions? Can you hold your pain without projecting it onto others? Can you be aware of your darkness without identifying with it? That's the real mastery. Not pretending to be all light, but knowing what to do with the parts of you that aren't. And let's be honest, there's a part of you that enjoys the edge. That part of you that thrives in intensity, that doesn't want peace all the time, that finds beauty in the chaos. That's not wrong. That's the mark of a soul that's lived many lifetimes in power and rebellion. A soul that knows how to tear down walls when necessary. The danger isn't the fire, it's what happens when you don't point it in the right direction. Because without purpose, your power will start to look for enemies, even when there are none. It'll create drama, conflict, self-sabotage, just to feel alive. But when you give it structure, intention, a mission, something sacred to protect or build, it becomes unstoppable. So what does that look like in the real world? It means learning to pause before you speak when you're triggered. It means asking, is this my pain or am I channeling someone else's? It means taking responsibility for your impact, even if your intent was pure. It means doing shadow work not just when you're in crisis, but as a daily practice, like brushing your energetic teeth. It means creating outlets for your intensity: writing, movement, breathwork, art, ritual. It means surrounding yourself with people who see your darkness and don't flinch, people who hold you accountable without trying to fix you. Because that's what every dark chosen one needs: sacred mirrors, not spiritual handholders. You also have to be ready to lose things: relationships, jobs, identities that no longer resonate with your frequency. Because as you refine your darkness into power, your energy shifts. You become more precise, more potent, and that triggers people who are still addicted to the old version of you. Let them go. Let the collapse happen. That's part of the process. Death always precedes rebirth, and your life will go through many myriads as you evolve. The key is not to resist them. The key is to see each collapse as an upgrade, a spiritual molting. You're not falling apart, you're shedding what no longer fits your vibration. And if you're wondering whether you're doing it right, if you're afraid of messing it up, good. That humility is your safeguard. The ones who are truly dangerous are those who think they've mastered their darkness without ever facing it. But you, if you're still watching this, you're not one of them. You're willing to look. You're willing to feel. You're willing to walk through fire without blaming the flames. That makes you rare. That makes you powerful beyond measure. So here's a question to sit with. When your shadow rises, do you shut the door or do you ask it what it needs to say? Because sometimes the part of you you've been trying to silence is the part of you that remembers your mission most clearly. The final right. Becoming the guardian of the threshold between light and dark. There comes a moment in the path of every dark chosen one where you stop seeking the light and stop fighting the dark, and instead You take your place in between at the threshold, not as someone lost, not as someone torn, but as someone whole. This is the final rite, the unforgiving, beautiful moment where you accept what you are, not just the healed, not just the wounded, but the one who guards the door between both. Because the truth is, we were never meant to pick a side. We were meant to balance them, to stand in the center like a bridge between worlds. You can feel it, can't you? That sense that you were never supposed to fully belong in the light, nor fully dissolve into the dark. You've always stood somewhere in the middle, carrying pieces of both. That's the design. That's the function. You are a threshold guardian, the one who can walk through the shadow realms and return with wisdom, the one who can sit with those in despair and not flinch, the one who can hold space for rage, grief, trauma, and still whisper healing into the silence. That's not weakness, that's mastery. But this final rite isn't a ceremony. It's not a ritual done in a cave or a temple. It happens quietly, internally. It's the moment you stop trying to be good and choose instead to be true. It's when you stop trying to prove your worth and simply embody it. It's when you realize you don't need to heal everything, you need to accept everything. Because from that place of radical acceptance, true power emerges, not the loud kind, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that changes people just by being in your presence. To be a guardian of the threshold is to live with contradictions and make peace with them. You will feel love and rage in the same breath. You will hold visions of beauty while carrying memories of ruin. You will want to save the world and burn it down in the same moment. You will cry in the middle of laughter and laugh in the middle of grief. You will live on edges, in between spaces where most people are afraid to go. But that's exactly why you're needed. Because in a world obsessed with extremes, it takes someone who can walk the middle path to bring balance. The world is not just in need of light, it's drowning in false light, in spiritual bypassing, in toxic positivity, in systems that use love as currency and silence as virtue. But you see through that. You always have. You were never fooled by appearances. You feel truth in your bones. And it's time you stop hiding that. You were not made to be palatable. You were made to be precise, to speak when others won't, to act when others freeze, to embody a frequency that cannot be faked. And that frequency is not soft. It's not always gentle. Sometimes it's a blade. Sometimes it's a howl. Sometimes it's the cold, clear silence that follows the storm. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be felt. And when your energy is aligned, when your light and shadow are dancing, instead of fighting, you become the kind of presence that rewrites reality. You become the silent storm that clears a path, the fire that warms and warns, the depth that others recognize but cannot name. So how do you live like this? How do you survive being the threshold keeper? You create your own sacred rhythm. You rest when the world demands performance. You speak when silence becomes complicity. You sharpen your mind, your intuition, your nervous system. You stay grounded in your body because it's the only compass that can navigate both realms. You practice daily rituals not for show but for survival. And most of all, you remember you are not alone. There are others like you, hidden, watching, waiting, walking their own path through the fog. And every time you step into your truth, you light a torch they can see. You send out a signal. You say, it's okay. You don't have to be only light. You don't have to be only shadow. You can be both. You can be whole. And in that small act of remembrance, you fulfill your mission. Because the final rite is not about transcending your humanity, it's about honoring it. It's about becoming the kind of soul who can look at a broken world and still choose to show up. not because it's easy, but because you must. Because something ancient in you remembers that you came here for this, to hold the line, to open the door, to be the threshold between what was and what could be. So now I ask you, what will you do with that power? Will you continue to hide it, waiting for someone to give you permission? Or will you rise fully, fiercely, finally, and take your place as what you were always meant to be? Not a savior, not a saint, but a guardian, a weapon, a healer, a mirror, a threshold. Welcome back. The world has been waiting for you.